I'm Ryan Herzog, the founder and president of B&R Computers. Every week we host webinars, usually early in the week. Our webinars are geared towards financial professionals with IRS and FTC requirements. And then later in the week is just general cybersecurity webinars. So today is Tuesday, so we're hosting one geared towards the IRS and FTC and financial industries, password policies, MFA, and access control. So this is going to help with the technical requirements that a lot of tax offices miss, and what we see when we come into a tax office to do the compliance and help them get set up. So the IRS and the FTC, they require specific technical controls, not just good intentions. So saying, oh, we're doing our best or something like that, it's not enough. And anybody that's dealt with the IRS, especially, they know that it's either black or white. There is no in between. So good enough intentions is not good enough. So technical controls are the specific security requirements and configurations that are required by the IRS Publication 4557 and the IRS Safeguards Rule. So unlike the WISP, which is just a document, these are the things that you either have enabled or you don't. Most firms that we come across, they don't have any of this enabled. So they're still, especially tax offices, they're still operating on, just having things saved to the computer, emailing documents back and forth with their clients, just absolutely no safeguards currently. So 81% of hacking-related breaches use stolen or weak passwords. So whether you or an employee clicked on something or your information was leaked to the dark web from a third-party breach, 81% of those breaches, they happen because of a weak or stolen password. 99.9% of accounts compromised or account compromises are blocked by MFA. So it's not 100%, but the most significant way to secure your email system is with multi-factor authentication. It's not 100%, but it's definitely a lot better than not having it at all. And then if you don't have your required security, your required access controls in place, you do risk losing your EFIN or having it suspended. And then the number one IRS requirement cited in compliance reviews. So what does the IRS compliant password policy actually look like? So they want you to have a minimum of 12 or more characters. Obviously, they recommend more, but it's got to be at least 12 characters. And then the typical mix of uppercase, lowercase numbers and symbols. Unique passwords for every system and portal. So a lot of companies use shared passwords among different portals, different accounts, but even among employees. And the IRS is saying, look, every system and every portal and even every employee needs to have, their own unique password. And then a password manager for all firm accounts. So using a browser, saving your passwords and usernames to a browser is a no-no. That is, those passwords and usernames and passwords, they can be exported in under 30 seconds. If you're using a password manager, it's much more complex than that. So there's no password sharing between employees, which again goes back to the unique passwords among portals and systems, as well as employees. And then if you suspect a compromise, you immediately reset that password. And then there's got to be an annual password policy review documented in the WISP. So in your WISP, it'll have, that you every year you're reviewing your passwords, changing them, and just keeping them protected. What we do typically find is something as simple as like password 1 or the firm's name and year, even the season with the year, summer 2026, fall 2026, just super easy passwords. And then same password used across all portals. Again, they're using one password for everything. And that's huge problem, because if a password is compromised and they know what, the different systems you use, they can just reuse that password in all the systems and compromise everything in your business. And then shared login credentials for tax software. That's another big one that we see. Multiple agents using the same account to sign into the tax software. So now the problem there is if there's a compromise or if there's an issue, you've got no accountability of knowing who did what tax return. Passwords never changed since the firm opened. Again, they set up a password once and forget about it. And, 9 times out of 10, your information's already on the dark web. So that password that you're using from 4, 5, 6 years ago is probably already on the dark web. And then use a password manager. So this is the biggest thing that would solve most of these issues. So a password manager, it can generate, store, and autofill unique passwords for every portal. So it'll make super complex passwords for you, and it'll store them and save them, and it'll autofill when you go to log in. And honestly, most of the good ones, the paid ones, they also will let you know if one of your passwords is in a breach. So it pretty much addresses all of the concerns. It's going to give you complex passwords. It's going to save them for you. It's going to autofill so you don't have to type them out. It's going to monitor that if any of your passwords ever get exposed, that you're alerted so you can change it. Password managers, it's the single most impactful change a small firm can take immediately. Multi-factor authentication is a non-negotiable to the IRS. So the multi-factor authentication, it requires 2 or more verification factors to authenticate an account. So it's something which is your password, plus something you have, which is a phone code or app. And then something or something you are, which could be biometric. Passwords alone are not sufficient under IRS requirements. So think about it like, if your username and password to an account is compromised and it's on the dark web and a criminal gets it, if they go to log in, unless they get the code that gets texted to you or they have the authenticator app that you're using to get your codes, they're not going to be able to get logged in. So MFA definitely helps a lot with preventing breaches. So where MFA is required according to the IRS, any of your tax software portals, so Drake, ProSeries, Lacerta, all those portals require MFA. Your IRS e-services and EFIN portal, your email account, whether you're using Microsoft 365, it mentions Gmail there, but ideally you'd be using like Google Workspace, which is Google's competitor to Microsoft 365. If you're using free email services, I would get away from that. Whether that's Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, free email services, you have no control over. They're not secure, and especially in the industry of tax professionals, you want a much more secure method of corresponding with your clients. And then MFA is also required on cloud storage. So if you use OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox, again, you should be using a more secure method than cloud storage especially for client documents and information. Client portals, this is the good stuff. So client portals is another one that's got to have MFA on. So TaxDome, Smart Vault, Canopy, those are portals where you can upload files or your client can upload files, and then you can securely download them. So the benefit here is it's encrypted. Each of you have your own user account, and unlike email, it's much more secure. Remote access and VPN connections. So if you've got remote access to an account or someone has remote access to your systems like an IT provider or VPN connections, those all need to have MFA. And then your payroll and accounting software. So really anything related to the bookkeeping industry, financial industry, tax professionals, all of those critical pieces of software and vendors you use need to have MFA. So accepted MFA methods, the Authenticator app, which is the preferred method, whether it's Google, Microsoft, or Duo, the Microsoft or the Authenticator app method is more secure than the text method. So SMS texting is acceptable, but it's less secure. So it would take quite a bit, but say that a criminal gets your login information for your account, and somehow they also manage to spoof your phone number. If you're getting the text code, they're going to be able to intercept that. Whereas if you're using an authenticator app, it's going to be near impossible for them to get that. And the other benefit too is with the authenticator apps, they have the 6-digit pins and they're rotating, so it's a more secure method than text code. Now, and then hardware. So they've also got the hardware security keys like YubiKey. That is the strongest option, but it's also a little bit more management and maintenance because it's another physical device. So never approve an MFA prompt that you did not initiate. This refers to MFA fatigue. So MFA fatigue attacks, they flood your phone with prompts, hoping that you'll accidentally approve one. So you and yourself, you need to train your team to reject unexpected MFA requests immediately. So think about this. If it's 2 a.m. and you're constantly getting alerts on your phone that your account's trying to log into something, in order to kind of dismiss it and get it to go away, you may approve it. The problem with that is you may have just approved the criminal trying to log into the account. So if you ever get prompts uninitiated that your account's trying to log in somewhere, that's a red flag that you should probably change your password. So anytime you're getting uninitiated MFA, prompts, there's something going on with your account. So not everyone needs access to everything, and that's the point. So this comes down to least privilege. Least privilege means that every employee has access to only the data and systems that they need in order to do their job, nothing more. The FTC Safeguards Rule and the IRS Publication 4557, they both require you to document and enforce this situation. So you've got role-based access, so that you define who can access what, and it's by role, not by person. So front desk staff, they should not have access, they're the same access as the owner of the firm. And then every role should be documented and its access level in your WISP. So the audit action is list every employee and what systems that they can access today. Terminated employee offboarding, every system access must be revoked the moment that an employee leaves. So their email, their tax software, client portal, cloud storage. This is one of the most common gaps that we see with small firms. An employee leaves, their account's left activated, and it's a vulnerability. So the audit action is, can you revoke all access within an hour of termination? Oops, sorry. Remote and third-party access. So any vendor, contractor, or remote employee with access to your systems must be documented. Access should be time limited and revoked when the engagement ends. So if you've got a vendor that needs access to systems, make sure that you put a calendar reminder in or something that on a certain date, if they don't need access anymore, remove it. Or if they may need ongoing access, just review with them. Hey, do you still need access? That way you don't forget about it. So the audit action here is who outside your firm can access your client data right now. So these are the 5 gaps that we often see. No MFA on tax software portals. So the fix to that would be if you log into Drake, Pro Series, Lacerda, to the admin panel, and you enable MFA under settings. Less than 10 minutes and you're secure. Shared logins for tax software. Create individual user accounts for every employee. Shared credentials make audit trails impossible, and quite honestly, they violate the IRS access control requirements. Passwords stored in a spreadsheet or browser. So you should adopt a password manager, like Bitwarden, 1Password, LastPass. Us here, we use Keeper as our password manager. And you need to migrate all of the passwords to that and delete them from the spreadsheet. Or if you were saving them to a browser, delete them from the browser. Because again, if it's in a spreadsheet or saved to your browser, in under 30 seconds, a criminal can have that information. If it's in a password manager, it's much more difficult. And I would strongly advise against free password managers, because the problem there is they're farming your data somehow. Nothing is free. So it's, you use a paid for platform that has a good reputation. So, and then another situation that we see a lot is former employees' access was never revoked. So run an access audit today, list all of your systems, check who has active accounts on those, and anybody that's no longer with your firm, remove their access. And then the last option, or the last one is no documented access control policy in the WISP. I mean, that's even if they have a WISP. So many firms that we see are non-compliant because they don't even have a WISP. So in the WISP, if you add a one-page access control section listing each role and what they can access and when access is reviewed and updated. So it's important to know who has access to what and that you're regularly reviewing it to be sure that people don't have too much access to something they don't need, or like, you know, if an employee leaves, that their account is removed and permissions revoked. So my question to you is, do you know if MFA is enabled on every portal your firm uses? Like I said, oftentimes, more often than not, we come into a firm and their MFA it's not enabled, or it's enabled on some but not all, and that's just as vulnerable. So we offer a free business risk review. It's a 30-minute phone call. We can do it through phone, through Zoom or Teams, and this 30-minute call is we ask a series of questions to gauge your understanding and knowledge on where your firm stands. That way we know the picture of, you know, do you know if multi-factor is enabled on all of your systems? Do you know if you use a password manager? You know, things like that. And then at the end of the call, we will put together a summary of potential exposures, you know, where you may be exposed, and then action items that you can take to resolve those exposures. And if you've got an IT provider already, you can take it back to them and they can help you resolve your exposure. Or if you don't have an IT provider, we are more than willing to help you get those problems fixed. And that way you're compliant with the IRS and FTC, and you know everything's good. So if you're interested in having us do a business risk review with you, if you go to businessrisk.bnrcomputers.com, there's a calendar there. You can pick your day, you can pick your time, and you know, then we'll have a call and get your risk reviewed. If you have any questions or have any comments, feel free to comment on this video or give us a call or send us an email. We're always happy to help wherever we can. And, you know, if people need more information, we're always happy to help there too. I appreciate your time today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.